And I want to tell you about my own experience because I have a background as a lead designer of rockets and spacecraft, a very fun career, and I have first-hand experience of the immense challenges of engineering design. To give you an example of that, I designed the 14-meter solar array for the ENVISAT satellite. ENVISAT is the world's largest civilian satellite, cost about $2 billion. It's so big it would hardly fit in this hall. And from that work, I learned that design does not happen by chance. Just to illustrate this, here's a picture of the gearbox that I designed for the ENVISAT satellite. It has 3 of these gearboxes. This is what I call a double-action worm gear set. You don't have to understand it, but believe me, it is complicated. And I have a world patent on this gearbox. Just to tell you some of the challenges of design. Design requires intense creativity. I had to spend literally months sweating and working hard to invent this brand new gearbox, which is completely different to any other kind of gearbox. If someone said to me, well, all you had to do, Stuart, was just evolve this from another kind of gearbox, I would actually feel very offended, because that was really hard to design. So design requires intense creativity, but it also requires intricate detail. That equation on the right-hand side of the screen, that is actually one equation. That is the mother of all efficiency equations. That took me months of sweat to develop that equation, but I had to do that to make sure that I designed the gearbox to exact requirements for the spacecraft. And that is hard to do. And so through my experience of spacecraft design, I absolutely discovered that design does not happen by chance, contrary to what you sometimes, the message you seem to get from evolutionists is that, well, the world could just appear by chance. And I believe that that message that design does not happen by chance is true not just of technology, but also of natural systems as well, what we see in creation. I also want to tell you that design is an emotional activity. This is something you don't learn at university or college, but it can be a very emotional activity. The ENVISAT satellite was launched on the 1st of March 2002 in French Guiana, and the most critical operation was the deployment of the solar array, which I designed. And it was actually the first ESA launch streamed live on the web. I remember halfway through the project to design ENVISAT, the manager of the whole program, he called me into his office and he said, Stuart, do you realize there's only one solar array on this satellite? And I said, yes. And he said, this satellite cost $2 billion. And do you realize that if, by the way, it's your solar array, do you realize if your solar array does not deploy within 50 minutes, then the whole mission is dead? And I said, I didn't know that. And he said, well, if you could remember that for the rest of the project, I would really appreciate that. And so I did. Then 2 weeks before launch, 2 weeks before the 1st of March, I began to feel physically sick, and I could not sleep. Again, it's one of those things they don't teach you at college and university, but it suddenly dawned on me that my solar array, if it did not work, the national press would be knocking on my door. So it was a very emotional activity. Now what I'm going to do is show you a video of the actual launch of ENVISAT to give you a little glimpse of the excitement of building something and sending a satellite into space. So with this IT system, I'm now going to, there we are, and if I'm clever with my mouse, oh, here we are. Okay, I'm going to play this video. There's a couple of things, a few things I'll mention first. First of all, you'll see the countdown you'll hear the countdown in French. In Europe, the French insist the countdown sounds best when said in French. So you'll hear that. What I want you to notice is the emotion of the ground staff. Notice how they look nervous as ENVISAT goes up into space. Then look at the relief when ENVISAT is actually launched into orbit. This is a real video of the launch. Some of the footage is simulation, but it's based on real data. And I can tell you, I was in tears as I watched ENVISAT go up into space. I really did not know if it was going to work. So this is just going to be a couple of minutes, this video of ENVISAT being launched.
Reality.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. À l'image du Vulcain.
Within 3 minutes of liftoff, the giant boosters, performing their roles superbly, separate. Within the next minute, the fairing protecting the satellite from atmospheric friction is jettisoned. ENVISAT is now travelling at more than 10,000 kilometers per hour. Within 10 minutes of liftoff, the cryogenic main stage separation and the minutes that follow herald the most exciting moments of the launch vehicle's mission. 27 minutes from launch, and with separation from the upper stage a complete success, 1 hour into the launch, an ENVISAT solar array, the powerhouse of its operational capability, is deployed. And with
So here you can see the solar array being deployed. It's slightly speeded up. It happens much slower than that. But look at the reaction of the ground crew when everything is deployed.
that is released into near perfect orbit.
Bravo, le satellite.
This is the most sophisticated, innovative laboratory ever put in space to study the Earth and to monitor the environment. But ENVISAT is not just for science. I would like to think of ENVISAT as our cornerstone for the Living Planet program of ESA, in which our intention is to serve the citizen.
There were a lot of tears at the end of that launch, I can tell you. It was a great relief. Now we're back onto here. Sometimes I hear evolutionists saying, evolution is very easy, the world can just evolve. But I often think, if only they tried to design an engineering system and saw the immense challenges of design, I'm sure they would not be so glib with their statements. By the way, one of the reasons ENVISAT is called ENVISAT is that it's an environmental satellite, but that's not actually the main reason it's called that. The main reason is that it is bigger than every American civilian satellite, and NASA were very envious, so we called it ENVISAT. I want to also tell you something about my scientific experience. I spent some years working at Cambridge University, and I was a fellow of Selwyn College. Being a fellow is very, very important because it meant that I was able to walk on the grass, on the greens. There are lots of greens at Cambridge. The students can't and the public can't, but I could walk on the greens. That meant I could literally walk in the footsteps of great scientists like Newton and Calvin, Maxwell and Fleming. And it was a great inspiration to be at the same university as those great scientists. Not only that, it was very inspiring to know that they were biblical creationists. They believed in the book of Genesis and in a creator. In fact, you could say Cambridge is a creationist university. Why do I say it's the top university in the world? It has the most graduate Nobel Prize winners in the whole world. I think at the moment is 61, more than any American university. Harvard has 48, I think, so 13 behind. It was a great experience being at Cambridge. Not only that, but I've also worked in the United States at a great university, Liberty University in Virginia. I was sponsored by the Royal Academy of Engineering to gain experience of working in the United States. And it was interesting working here, seeing the growing influence of the atheistic worldview, even in this great Christian country.